Welcome back. Chuck Malamut is here. Chuck Malamut is the managing director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. You can reach them for all of your financial planning needs by dialing 609-383-2010. Chuck Malamut in his 26th year as the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. The following program segment is presented by Chuck, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast weekly are those of Chuck. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley, Smith Barney, member SIPC. And Chuck, on the eve of obviously a very important holiday, I wish you my very best.
Harry, thank you very much. The holiest of the holiest, there's no doubt about it. So maybe you should come to repent for all your sins too.
Well, I'm happy to do so. You want a
little bit of Mike,
Kirk,
a little bit.
Kirk wanted a little more. Chucky wants a little less. Are you good now?
No,
now a little more up. Are you good now?
We're going the wrong way, Harry.
You want it up or down?
Up.
Oh, I thought you said go
down.
There
we go. Thank you.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Then you actually wanted yours higher than Kirk. You wanted more volume. All right, Mr. Malamut, what's the market update, sir?
So, Harry...
Oh, incidentally, I know she's at school by now, but happy birthday to your beautiful niece, Ava, who once sent me the coolest video I think I've ever received on the occasion of me on the final day 2 or 3 years ago of having a celebratory moment in the Malamut for entertainment only pool that we do. And she is a lovely young girl, Chuck, your niece.
Absolutely, Harry. Thank you very much, and I'll make certain to pass on to her your message. I know that she was there.
Did you hear our
announcement? I did hear it. We all heard it, yes, in the Malamut household, but thank you very much.
You got it.
So, today actually starts this morning as before the market opened, Alcoa reported. They had a slight miss. It was they came at 32 cents. The estimate was at 35. If we take a look at last week, Harry, the Dow Jones, the S&P, the NASDAQ, they were all down, for the week. The only shining star was actually the MSCI emerging markets that we've, chatted about, which have, had a very, very, very good year. And, they sort of broke away when we had all the issues with Brexit and over in the UK. I know you and Kirk had chatted a little bit about Deutsche Bank, this morning as part of, the EU, so to speak. But
did you have any opinion when I said it's too big to fail, so they won't let it fail?
I'm not quite certain, Harry. I think that Merkel won't let it happen, but I think there's a lot that we don't know about at this point in time. So I really don't want to. Okay. I don't want to comment on that.
Fair enough.
You've seen a fair amount of volatility in the stock, as of the last several weeks. As we got to the end of the last week, seemed to subside somewhat, but still, all eyes are on, the success, ongoing success, hopefully, that particular bank. But, year to date, Dow Jones up a little bit less than 7, S&P up slightly over 7, NASDAQ up about 6 3/4. Obviously, as we've mentioned, we've had some troubles internationally. The MSCI EFA it's referred to is up, a little bit less than 2% year to date. So there's been a lot of discussion. Now we're waiting for earnings. Obviously, there's been so much focus on who's going to be our next president, and it. I know that we don't talk politics on this show, but
no, sir.
But it's just so terribly disappointing that you can't. You're not judged and ruled fairly. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I mean, it was
correct.
It was kind of and I think Trump was absolutely correct when he made this statement. It's 1 on 3 here this evening, but
that was extraordinary. Chuck, quick programming note. I meant to mention this at the very top of the hour, and I get so excited to start your program that I forgot to do it. Had a nice meeting with my chief engineer during the break, the great Tom McNally, the finest chief engineer in the history of the metro market. Our president, as you know, Chuck, you were here. Michael Rubel was in studio as well. And Tom was letting me know, and we knew this was coming. Every so often, Tom is a magician. He does work where we should be off the air, but we never do go off the air. And it's really remarkable. It's kind of like your electricity. You have to do certain repairs and replacements and things, but you never want to take the system down. We're very fortunate that we have the FM band 104.1. We also can be listened to at 104.9 if you have an HD radio on HD2. So you go on your HD radio to the 104.9 frequency, and then it gives you a number of choices, HD1, HD2, HD3, and we have, I think, 4 of them, possibly even 5. That's what's pretty cool about the technology of today. You can have more than one channel on the same band, on the same frequency, rather, on the same band. So in any event, there is necessary repairs that are going to be taking place to our tower in Atlantic City. Tom has taken me there, several times over the years so that I can have a feel for, how it all works. It's one thing, I have the blessing of just being able to turn the mic on, and there we go. And Tom's job is to make sure that the equipment works. So there is some really great work that's going to be done. It's going to start after we sign off. So at some point this morning, the station will actually, on the 1450 AM band, go off the air. We'll still be on at 104.1 FM, 104.9 HD2, and also WPGTalkRadio.com or from the Radio Pup app itself from any digital smartphone. So that's why we're very fortunate to have not only redundancy but also many, different frequencies on the AM and the FM band because this work can get done and we can still be heard. So just understand, if you put 1450 on starting later today, and it will take the rest of today and all day tomorrow. And I can't promise that that is the end of it. It should be, but we'll keep you posted in that regard. But you can do what I said, and that's listen with your smartphone app or your laptop, desktop, iPad, any device. But 1450 will be down for part of today and probably all of tomorrow. We'll keep you posted as things change. Chuck, thanks for the opportunity to share that.
No problem, Harry. So, the one bright spot that we've seen here of late is what's happening with one of your favorite topics, and that's the price of oil. We see a brighter oil price outlook, which will happen to help risk assets and may, in fact, hurt some of those safe haven investments, as they're referred to.
When you say a brighter price, you mean coming down?
No, a brighter price meaning higher.
Okay.
I mean, you think about what OPEC, did in the last couple of weeks. You saw a strategic shift, Harry, by Saudi Arabia, where they kind of walked away from the battle of what we'll kind of describe as market share. So there's a fair amount of skepticism about OPEC. I mean, we've talked about this for years, and the possible implementation of this. They say one thing, and then do they in fact follow through?
Well, here's why I love having an official financial advisor and expert like Chuck Malamut, who's the best in the business in my view, because we have more supply than there is demand. So why should the price come down when it can go up? I mean, you got to admit, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, Harry, I think what's happened here, we're seeing, you think about it, there's less of a risk now with the potential of a plunge in prices. I remember there was another firm that I'll leave nameless that at one point in time predicted oil would be in the mid-20s, and it did not in fact get there. I mean, the price of Brent as we closed out last week was just shy at 52 and actually was up almost 6% for the week. Harry, hard to believe year to date that the price of crude is actually up almost 40%. And I guess the good news for all of us that drive is that the price at the pump has not moved nearly as high. I mean, you think about it, we were $2.04 per gallon at the end of December of last year. Now we are at $2.25.
My corner store has been stuck on 199.9, like they can't take the numbers off the digital reader board. No matter what's been happening, it has just stayed right there. That's, of course, for a gallon of regular unleaded. Now, of course, we know in the near future we're going to have built in a 23-cent increase. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna kind of shift gears for a second because I did listen to your interview on Friday. And it was Senator Joe Carrillos.
And I think, Harry, it was the first time that I think anyone,
actually heard anything other than the increase in the the gas tax.
I think if you really clearly understood the message, look, none of us want to pay more at the pump. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the reduction of the sales tax will be minimal, but I think the big pickup here, Harry, is the fact that we continue to lose so many jobs and businesses that move out of the state because of the fact that it's less expensive to go someplace else. So, New Jersey was one of the few states that had an estate tax still imposed on people that pass away. So I know that you're going to get that tug of war where you're going to have, the lower wage earners, the lower middle class, basically saying, well, this is terribly unfair. We're going to pay more. But I think if you hopefully you fast forward this over the next 10, 15 years, and everything is obviously subject to change, but I think this is actually beneficial for the state of New Jersey.
The net of it, and it's really hard to sell this because, and Senator Carrillos admitted this, they did a terrible job telling the people what this is. The only thing that ever got out is that it's a 23-cent per gallon gas tax. There was no discussion about the sales tax, fractionally coming down in increments, or the favorable impact to the estate tax, where ultimately it will be improved, and then before this legislation is fully complete, the estate tax will be eliminated. So I think that for many people, it's a net winner. Now, if you don't have an estate to speak of, and say you rely on buying a lot of fuel, if you're a taxi driver or a jitney driver, even though a lot of them are using natural gas now, or anyone, truck driver, or anyone that has deliveries, in a restaurant you do deliveries, it will be $5 or more every time you fill up at the pump.
Yeah, I mean, so Harry, there's winners and there's losers.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, most of the residents of the state of New Jersey are going to actually win when these tax increases and tax decreases in fact happen.
Let's get our first break in. It's approaching 18 minutes past the hour. You're listening to Chuck Malamut. Almost no introduction required. He's that famous. The exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. We're together in our 26th year. My broadcasting career and with Chuck is the same date. We started together July 1st, almost 26 years ago. Chuck is the managing director, leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010. And that's for all of your financial planning needs. And you will learn about Chuck's perfected concept of total asset management coupled with the all-important asset allocation. We're going to come back in 3 minutes, much more straight ahead. Chuck is going to be talking, if we're not done with oil, anything else that Chuck wants to share there. We're going to talk to Federal Reserve, corporate earnings, Brexit still in the news, and anything else that Chuck wants to share with you when we come back straight ahead.
Hurley in the Morning.
With Chuck Malamut. Chuck, anything more on oil?
Well, Harry, if you think about what happened with oil, the plunging prices that we had back in 2015 and early 2016, basically sent those shockwaves, economically speaking, across the entire world, creating a lot of market volatility and a fair amount of pain in the emerging markets and your high yield fixed income assets. So, this effort to rebalance this oil market, Harry, is really important because it should help support not only energy companies, but also, those investors with risk appetite and the potential for reflation trade. So, as I mentioned to you as we started the hour, the best performing market year to date has been the emerging markets, and it correlates back to the fact that the price, if crude is up substantially, year to date. So I think that, all eyes are here on Saudi Arabia and OPEC. And maybe this time it will in fact happen because you've seen these misstarts before on multiple times. So, only time will tell, as far as where we go with the price of crude. But the good news is the price at the pump, Harry, think about it, year over year, as I mentioned to you, right now we're at about 232, as far as, within the scope of the country. I'm sorry, we're 225. We were 232 a year ago. So virtually just a very, very slight decrease year over year.
So ironically, and that's only this one snapshot in time, but when we get our 23 cents put on top, we'll be the national average.
We will, yes, Harry, very good. We will be the national average. There's no doubt about
Almost
it. So
exactly. All right, that's good. That's a good update. I still don't fully understand it, Chuck, because if you have more supply than there is demand, the price should actually come down and not go up. But I do accept, sometimes these things that sound, counterintuitive. I do accept why, you said what you said. Federal Reserve.
That's your That's probably your second favorite topic.
Well, because I don't like it when people are political and they lie to us and say they're not political. That's why they're my favorite topic. But now it's your favorite topic, and that's your number one or number. It's 1A,
okay.
Possibly 2. But I am eating free pizza because of them.
Yeah, you are, Harry. But you have to remember, we are on budget, so it's just a free. Plain pizza.
That's all I want.
There's no toppings.
I don't want any toppings.
Okay, that's good.
I just want
we do have to make it. Yeah. We do have to make a date for that. So I know you have a very, very busy schedule. We'll see if you can kind of work me in there.
I'm happy to do it.
So anyway, what's going to happen, Harry? This week, the Federal Open Market Committee September 21st meeting minutes are going to be released. And it's going to clarify, obviously, their thinking on what's going to be happening with rate increases. So there's been, obviously, a lot of discussion as to what's going to happen. As you mentioned, the Fed is not political, but maybe they in fact, are political. The December meeting, all eyes on the Fed, and the possibility is that they're going to have I've heard this on multiple occasions, Harry, their annual rate increase. So we'll probably go 25 basis points in all likelihood. But there are still 3 Fed members that dissented, Harry, from the decision, recently to keep rates on hold. So it looks as if there will be, in fact, an increase in December. Unless there is some economic data that comes that that forces the Fed to make no decision. But think about, we've been on this kind of this sugar high for so terribly long, and as a result of that, the end result's going to be you're probably going to make a move.
Yeah, the end result will be 1 rate increase after the November election. Want to bet another pizza?
No, I'm not going to. No, Harry, because we had made this statement a long time ago. Why would I double down on something that I think is going to happen here?
Well, no, okay.
Right? Does that make any sense?
It only makes sense if you think there's any chance that they won't increase the rate for the remainder of the year, which is a possibility. I don't think it's a large possibility. They're going to do this rate increase after the election, but before the end of the year. And I will bet another pizza if you'd like to. No,
I think one pizza is probably good enough right now, Harry. But thanks for trying to suck me into that one.
I am the pizza whisperer, Chuck. I'm telling you, I've won more pizzas this year.
But if you want to bet, if you want to put toppings on it, we can do that. On the first pizza. But I'm not going. No, I'm not going to take that bet.
That's not a good bet.
No, not at all.
I care too much about you to make that bet.
So the question is now, as we kind of chatted about just a few minutes ago, Alcoa came. They're the first to announce. Usually they come at the close. They came this morning before the market opened, and that's going to kicks off third quarter earnings.
I know that it just happened, but do you have a feel for top line versus bottom line?
No, Harry, I don't really follow Alcoa that much. Okay. I mean, it's certainly not a bellwether with respect to the rest of the market. I mean, it's obviously,
but it is big enough that it matters.
It is in that industrial space. There's no doubt about it. And if you take a look at sectors within the S&P 500, industrials are sitting sort of right in the mid range, up almost 11% year to date, with energy, telecom, utilities number 1, 2, and 3. up anywhere from 16 to 18%, and the laggards, consumer discretionary financials and healthcare, up, marginally. So,
and Chuck, I bring that up, and I learned it from you, but I bring it up because when we get to the point that many companies in many different industries start hitting top line, because we're getting to the point where we cannot cut our way very much longer to prosperity. So when people start hitting top line, to me, that's going to be just a snapshot, sort of illustrative that the economy is going better.
Well, Harry, look, the Fed is pretty much, admittedly so, out of bullets. What are they going to do next? What's interesting here to make note of is that we are now going to be increasing rates at some future time, or not in the not too distant future, we'll call it. And in the meantime, a lot of countries, Japan, Germany, Italy, continue to struggle, and as a result, they are doing their best to keep rates, as low as possible. And actually, we've seen situations where we had that negative interest rate scenario. So we're kind of a little bit different, but that shows the strength of our economy versus what's happening globally speaking.
Well said. A brief time out. Chuck, did you see your brother Harry on 6 ABC Action News?
I did, Harry. Yes, I'm looking for an autographed copy.
Are you proud
of
of your little brother?
You did a fine job, Harry.
Thanks,
yes,
buddy. I left a lot on the editing floor, too. There was a lot. I mean, you can only get so much in. But John Rollins, I gave him a kudos in my opening monologue. It is nice that there are still journalists that, when he approached me to do this story, I knew it wasn't a hatchet piece on Atlantic City. Chuck, the Hurley doctrine is that anywhere I have to go, North Jersey, New York, wherever I have to go to talk up Atlantic City, I go. And I was teasing our audience in the 6 o'clock hour because I was on 2 hours sleep yesterday, and I gave a pint of blood within 15 minutes of signing off the air. And then I get this message, would I do this? And all I wanted to do was go home and lay down, but I went and did it, and it didn't take place until 1:30 in the afternoon. So I wound up getting home at around 2:30. But the man kept his word. He did a very nice piece on Atlantic City, and I just appreciate the fact that there are still honest, objective journalists, because we see at the national level this has been an incredible season. 31 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is here for all of your financial planning needs. You can turn to the Malamut Group. They are the official, the exclusive financial advisors to the Hurley in the Morning program. 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. We'll be back with Chuck in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away. 2.5-minute break, and then more Chuck Malamut. With Chuck Malamut for all of your financial planning needs, turn to the Malamut Group, the team that I exclusively and officially endorse here on the Hurley in the Morning program. They are the official financial advisors to the Hurley in the Morning program, Harry Hurley, and so on. The Malamut Group, 609-383-2010. We still on corporate earnings?
Harry, I think next week we're going to be really able to focus more because, all indications are that earnings should be decent, and we kind of hit that trough not too long ago with respect to corporate earnings, and they seem to be somewhat on the rebound moving forward. But it's anybody's guess, where we're going to go here. Very good. Now, Brexit is on your agenda because literally it's like a monster movie. It won't go away. Yeah, Harry. So if you take a look at the price of the pound, I mean, it literally last week, went into a tailspin. I mean, it hit like a 30, I believe a 21-year low, now trading at 1.23. When this started, the pound was trading at about 1.45. And so what happened last week. Hey, by the way, not to take you off your game, has the new prime minister, is she sort of acting like she doesn't have to follow the will? Because here's what happened. Actually, no, Harry. I thought it's a little bit sketchy there. So last week, British Prime Minister Theresa May made the announcement that the UK is going to trigger what is referred to as Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty by the end of March of 2017, which basically marks the official start to the negotiation process to leave the EU. So that, in fact, is, that's...
But let me go back to my point, because what you're saying is accurate, but I think what I'm saying has the potential to be accurate. They said, hey, we'll give you this date way down the road where we then just begin the process.
Well,
and what if they begin the process at the speed of a tortoise? I think there is a slow walking going on here.
Well, Harry, if you go back to the night of the vote, the indications were that this is not a simple process and could take anywhere up to 5 years.
Okay.
To walk away.
All
so
right.
I think to target March of 2017, it's it's only a few months away.
Okay.
So I don't. I mean, and I think what happened was, what she spoke about last week. She's trying to prioritize immigration control, which would, limit full access, to the rest of Europe, and as a result of all that, the pound fell dramatically last week, Harry. Its lowest level since 1985 versus the U.S. dollar.
Wow. And
it was down at one point in time, Harry. We were sleeping. It was on Friday morning. It was down 6% onto itself, and it did reverse itself somewhat. But now you have that ongoing drag of what happens to the pound versus the U.S. dollar. I mean, what a great time for us to travel and go to the UK.
Conversion rate is beautiful.
So, but I think what's going to happen here, as I mentioned to you before, the emerging markets, MSCI emerging markets have had a dramatic increase as a result of all this happening. And I wouldn't be at all surprised, Harry, if that in fact continues on over the next several months.
Chuck, I want to end on a local note, but there is a financial component to this because that's what we do on your show. Even if we're talking about local issues, we make it still a financial analysis of it. As you know, I did the interview yesterday with 6 ABC Action News Philadelphia television station on the future of Atlantic City. And my conversation was two-pronged. It was number one, then there was 7 with the closing of the Trump Taj Mahal Casino Resort, which I'm very sad to see happen. And I really don't believe it ultimately had to happen. I just wish, I just believe that could have been averted. But having said that, there's now 7. If this casino question were to pass, it's one conversation that we would be having. I'm going to base this for the moment that it's not going to pass. What are your thoughts about Atlantic City?
I guess the question is the number one question what happens to the vote?
The future of Atlantic City, if there's 7 casinos, the future of Atlantic City, if we lose the vote unexpectedly, because the thing I'm worried about is the other side threw the towel in. They're not spending anything to market their cause. The other side is still treating it like there is a campaign, so I give them credit for not going to sleep, which some people would have done. But if this question were to pass, it's got to be a minimum of 2 other casinos that would close.
I would think so, Harry. I mean, we're not going to sit here and make predictions of who would go down next. I mean, it's pretty obviously who the most successful players are versus those that are not. So
yeah, we can almost call who would close, and that wasn't my point either. But just that Atlantic City would contract further.
Yeah, your interview yesterday was pretty interesting in the fact that Atlantic City is truly trying to right size itself with respect to gaming space, hotel rooms, and ultimately available parking. But the fact that there is now additional revenue streams coming into the city is extremely important. I think I don't think we're saying anything that we haven't talked about before. Your listeners don't know, but the ultimate success of Stockton is very, very critical.
And I think it's going to be very successful.
And I think it will too. I mean, the naysayers are saying, basically say, well, how can you put a college, in a decaying urban environment? So that's something that we're going to need to work through. And maybe, Harry, this could be a tale of two cities when it's all said and done.
Let me comment further. One of the strengths of Atlantic City right now, we have 14,458 rooms. In February, with the 10, formerly Revel, 1,399 more rooms are going to come online. So we're basically a jurisdiction with 16,000 rooms. When you compare that, Chuck, to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, they have 11,000 rooms. I mean, we can literally do big events that they can't even do. So if we were to lose, say we lost 3 more casinos, which I think is the number. I think the first contraction takes the town from 12 to 8. We know that took place in 2014. This wave would take the city down from 8 to 4. I really believe that. Probably no better than 5 on our best day, but I think down to 4. So you know what that means. That means X thousands of jobs, 6,000 more jobs, maybe a little more actually. And then, of course, we would lose another 5,000 rooms. It would all depend which property. And then we know, Chuck and I know which properties have which number of rooms, but I don't know which ones would close, so we can't say for sure. But we would lose thousands of rooms. So if you contract further by way of this ballot question passing, and you go from 16,000 rooms down to 10,000 rooms, it literally changes. Who knows? Maybe MPI doesn't pick Atlantic City. Maybe TSNN, which is the largest trade show organization, maybe they don't pick Atlantic City. So to me, it's still, this ballot question is so important to us.
Harry, I'm very concerned because obviously a presidential election draws a larger population base, voters, to the polls. I maybe you said this, and if I'm repeating, then I apologize. But people have a tendency to vote yes. On ballot questions. So, you got to be very, very careful. I mean, you can't take your eye off the ball here, because remember,
an education campaign of what the stakes are here. And you're absolutely right, Chuck. The predisposed bias of a typical voter that isn't paying attention, which is, I'm not putting anybody down. It's not this audience, but let's be honest, half the electorate doesn't even register to vote. Of the half who does, only half of the half show up on a presidential election year. So we're talking about a 25% type deal. And then out of that, many are not paying attention. And I predict this. Thousands and thousands, I just can't tell you how many, Chuck. Even in District 2, 100,000 more people are going to vote in Congressional District 2 this year than typically vote in an off year. Let me just finish one point, and then you take it from here. What I'm saying is I predict literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands is probably more like it, and it could even be higher than that, of voters that will be voting because it's a presidential election and voting because it's their member of Congress and voting on county and local elections. They're going to see that question for the first time. Yeah,
Harry, think about 1974 when at least South Jersey had predicted a victory, which went the wrong way.
Yep.
76, it was very questionable which way it was going to go. And most recently, Harry, think about Brexit. I mean, as the London bookies were basically betting and saying that there was a very, very high probability that Brexit would fail.
That is correct.
And lo and behold, look what happens. Mm-hmm. So I would be very, very cautious.
And I think it complicates things. Believe me, if I could have my choice, I would pick it to be going the way that it is and not facing an incredible multi-million-dollar market saturation level statewide campaign. The campaign right now that's running to defeat this, they have a theme in this portion of the state. They have a theme in the middle portion of the state. They have a theme in the northern portion of the state. It's really smart. They're doing a great job. I'm happy that there's not millions being spent on the other side. But sometimes when you don't have a true campaign, even though people are seeing all these vote no, vote no, vote no, because we don't have an actual campaign, this election, as far as I'm concerned, is harder to measure than if you had a campaign. Absolutely.
And Harry, let's assume for a minute that the vote works in favor of Atlantic City.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away.
No, they're going to come back with it.
They will be back in one, if not 2 years. So
I think when you fail, you have I think it's 2 years, but they will be back.
So we have to plan for that. We have to be ready. There's no doubt about it. And I think that Atlantic City is making some steps in the right direction. It's moving a little slower, I think, than all of us would like to see. But as you know, that's sometimes how government does move, sometimes at a snail's pace. But hopefully that, you get more people in here like the Bart Blatsteins that truly believe in the future of Atlantic City, that will in fact redevelop it, and hopefully, we look 5, 7, 10 years down the road and say, wow, amazing what we were able to accomplish in that relatively short period of time.
Chuck, isn't it something to see? I mean, you and I were senior casino executives in the first third, or so, first quarter maybe of the advent of the casino era in Atlantic City. We could never really get our presidents or our owners excited about hotel operations or non-gaming revenue. They wanted a clean property, clean rooms, clean toilets, clean public area, and do a great job in terms of, 5-star, 5-diamond level of hotel service. But look at the difference now. There is an appetite and a desire, passionate desire to achieve maximum non-gaming revenues. I have to say, I love this career, Chuck, but I would have loved that challenge because I started a ship store at Trump Castle Casino Resort by the Bay, but I'm telling you, they just kind of let me do it because, I kind of have a sort of a personality that if I push something enough, I will typically get my way. I don't mean that in an off-putting way. So they finally let me open up the store, but they didn't care. They did not care about hotel non-gaming revenue. I don't want to go back. Believe me, if I ever did, something has gone very wrong. But it would have been exciting, Chuck. And I think you could say, couldn't you say a similar statement to what I just did? It was really, they didn't care about generating non-gaming revenue.
Harry, I wish back in the days I was able to record our owner, Steve Wynn, in an executive meeting, basically making some statements about gaming revenue versus non-gaming revenue, and for the sake of your wide range of listeners,
it was colorful.
I won't get into it, but it was certainly from the hotelier's perspective, it was disappointing.
And now,
hear
but
him.
Look at he had to evolve though, because look at later in his casino ownership career how those words were ridiculous. They were ridiculous then. They just didn't know it. But by comparing to what Las Vegas has done now, where more revenue comes from non-gaming sources than from gaming sources, it proves there was always so much opportunity.
Well, maybe we should set up a conference call and maybe chat with Mr. Wynn.
Yeah, you want to revisit 1984 again or 1983?
I don't think he's terribly interested in doing that, Harry. But we could always call to ask.
But it has changed. What I'm saying is it's really changed to where now maximizing non-gaming revenue is really a major thrust of the overall success of today and the future of Atlantic City.
Absolutely. So I guess, we'll know in a month or so as to the ongoing fate of Atlantic City. We'll know in that same month the ongoing fate of our country. And I think this is
a big quarter.
This is a huge quarter. And Harry, next week when we come back, we'll hopefully have some earnings from typically the big banks come next. And we'll see where we go.
Chuck, the S&P, by way of formula, in terms of who wins the national election, that still favors the party not in power winning, doesn't it? Even though none of the polls suggest it.
That's correct, Harry.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
S&P has been the decider in every election, I think, certainly well past our lifetime, with the exception of one, and I forget which one, but it was not a recent one. No, Reagan. It was Reagan, actually. And in fact, there's two. Obama in 2012. So it has happened twice in like 100 years. Chuck, anything you want to share in closing?
No, Harry, we're good, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. As always, Chuck Malamut. For all of your financial planning needs, please turn to Chuck. Tell him that I sent you. You can reach the entire Malamut team, and they're a great team, at 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. The program that we just presented was presented by Chuck. He is a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck Malamut. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. And remember, when you want to talk to Chuck, we haven't been taking your phone calls during the program by policy. However, you can reach Chuck, and he would love to take your calls. I mean, because when you call the program and we can't get you on air, that certainly doesn't mean that Chuck does not want to speak with you. Call him at 609-383-2010 and tell him you listen to his program. A lot of people tell me all the time how much they know that Chuck is going to be here on Tuesday in the 8 o'clock hour, and look forward to always tuning in. Chuck, I thank you as always.
Harry, thanks again. See you next week.
We'll look forward to it. 52 minutes past the hour, a mini segment. Straight ahead, Dr. Bob Zlotnick making a house call in our fourth and final quarter beginning at 9:05.